Hey, everybody, this is Melissa Rogozinski with the Marketing Phoenix podcast. And I am very excited to have my good friend and colleague, Melissa Ballesteros, with us today. Melissa and I met several months ago through the SoFlo Legal Tech Group and just immediately hit it off. I told her I loved her earrings, so she gave them to me. So I had to wear them for today. But Melissa is really just carving out her own path as an AI adoption and trainer and an AmLaw 100. And she's a speaker, she's a panelist, she's a certified AI prompter, she's a Microsoft Copilot trainer, she's an AI matchmaker. And I'm so excited to get into all of this because we're going to talk about her background, what all these things mean, but also we're going to tie it into how what she does in that training and using AI supports marketing and sales and business development. So with that, I'm going to ask Melissa to introduce herself a little bit, and then we'll dive right in.
Well, thank you so much for the invitation. That's quite the introduction. I do a lot of things. I'm very passionate about everything that I do. And yes, I've been in legal for a long time. Yes, I do work with adoption training. And I also co-founded an AI rockstar women in AI and cybersecurity community, which I'm really, really proud of. And so, yeah, it's just AI, anything. AI is changing the world we live in, and I'm very excited to be here and be a part of this. Thank you for the invite.
You're welcome. Thanks for joining. Okay, I want to know, you've got AI matchmaker as the first part of your headline on your LinkedIn profile. So when everybody sees it, it says AI matchmaker. What does that mean?
Absolutely. That means that I am really, really good at matching the tool with the right task, but even better and more importantly, the community building that comes around that. And so what that means is learning happens in adoption, not just learning, but adoption truly happens and thrives in community. So matching up the right people to talk together so that they can create content and that is of more value, and matching up the right tools along with that is the perfect match. So that's why I'm referred to as the AI matchmaker. And I didn't come up with that, but I love somebody said that and I said, you know what? That sounds like the right thing. That's what I do.
It does. When I see that on your profile, like it just screams. And when I was preparing for our conversation this morning, I mean, like I've not seen anybody else call themselves an AI matchmaker. And I'm like, that's so cool. And so about being an AI matchmaker. So, finding the right tools and finding the right processes and applications and the right people and the training. And you hit on the adoption. That's so important because we're seeing that through, tons of posts and conferences. It's for the last 2.5 years in legal, it's been AI everything. And there's some fatigue around the terminology of AI, but you hit on adoption. And I think that's just as important as, okay, AI, whatever, how are we going to monetize this? Like we need, when we take in clients at RPC and they want to talk about AI, I really encourage them to focus on how are you going to help your prospects and your clients monetize their businesses and be more efficient and be more profitable as a result. And I think monetizing it, but the adoption are absolutely just as important. We need to have that conversation, Melissa. So what does adoption mean? What are the challenges you're seeing around adoption? And how are you helping attorneys to move past those obstacles?
So it's not just with the attorneys, but people in my world and, the community and everywhere. And it's such an important piece of the puzzle. And so I will tell you, it starts not with adoption, but it starts way before that. Okay. It starts with buy-in from your leadership. And if you're talking about you personally, it starts with buy-in from you. You have to believe this is going to do something for you, right? Once you've done that, then it's the responsible part of how do I get it and what do I get it for? Okay, so keeping in mind what are the problems that you're solving, which is exactly what you're talking about, right? How are you going to monetize this? Is that a problem? Right? What is it that you're doing today that will actually be different that will get you further? So if you are, say, from the very, very minimal piece of creating a report, what is the report for? What is it supposed to do? And can we make that in a different way that will give us better results? And we can do that through AI. So it's analyzing processes that are really small pieces of big, big problems or issues that you want to solve, because solving those problems should be tied in or aligned with your mission and vision on your business. If you are just buying an AI tool because everybody has one or because you want to, get your business AI powered, you are going to run into some big roadblocks in between, because you should align mission, vision with your AI strategy, which should, by the way, include a data cleanup, because nobody's data is clean. Everybody's data is dirty. Somebody said to me at Ulta, I said, yes, it is. And so once you get those pieces together, the adoption happens when, now that you've decided, here is the tool that we're using, here are the problems that we're solving, this is what we're attempting to do, you then start using community to approach those people. So you have the champions who are going to help you to enable others to do the same, because people, oh, wow, I did this. Well, ooh, show me how you did that. And guess what? I'm thinking through as you're doing this, well, could it also do that?
Mhm.
Oh no, let's try it, right? And so that's how you build on content. So there's a million applications, and we can touch on some of those as well. You have your generative AI tools like your Copilots, your Chat GPTs, all of those, Claudes, and all that, which is fantastic. But then you also need other applications, right, to help you along with your sales process and all that. So it's if you don't use it, you might as well have a jet parked on your driveway. If you're never going to drive it or fly it anywhere, it doesn't really matter what you do.
Um, that's so funny you mentioned that. This is so random. I was gonna turn in a rental car yesterday, and I tried to keep it an extra, but I kept it an extra day. And there was a light on the dashboard, and I went in. I was like, "Hey, before I take off with this, like, will you check that light?" And they came out and like, "Oh, it's just a low tire pressure, so we'll go fill it." And I was like, "That's such a boneheaded move on my part." But here's the thing: I haven't actually owned a vehicle in 10 years because I've lived in downtowns, and like, I felt dumb, but the fact of the matter is, I haven't owned a vehicle in 10 years. So I haven't had to worry about these things or pay attention or manage it. I haven't used it like that. So you're right. Like, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Absolutely. And you're paying for it. That's the downside, right? All of this costs money because it is really a mindset shift. When you get a tool, this isn't like click here, here, and here. There are no menus. There are no clicks.
Mhm.
There are no set things it does. It isn't an application for. It is an application that allows you to get to different places, no matter where you're going.
Um, Remind me later on in our questions. I want to tell you the story of why I call AI a green idiot.
That's a good one.
So, all right. So what are some of the business impacts is it positive business impacts and outcomes that you've seen as a result of implementing some of these AI tools, but also getting adoption out of that? Like, what are one or two real world examples you've seen that have made positive business outcomes as a result?
Sure. I can tell you that the most simplest output, at least with Copilot, which is a really good general tool, it's a good generalist tool, is answering your emails. Answering your emails and having information to everything that Outlook has for you is life changing, because you can actually talk to it and say something like, hey, take a look at the last 6 months of conversations that Rogo and I had, and create a list of all the questions that we've discussed, and tell me what I answered, and where could I have done better? How is our relationship evolving because of this? What are good things that me and her can talk about? And to grow our relationship or the concept that we've been working on or whatever, because it has all of this information. It has really good data. So remember, dirty data, back to that. So when it is building the data around you, when it has access to the words that you say, and now with memory, which keeps track of that. Before it forgot everything, right? It was like your friend who had no memory whatsoever, and it was a new friend every time. Now this friend's getting to know you. So that's the most minimal, but really, really powerful place where I have seen that, at least for me and for, like I said, everybody. This isn't a law firm thing. This is an AI is changing the world you live in type of thing, right?
For sure.
Other places where I think and more geared towards say marketing and or sales, not for law firms, but again in the general sense, people are using different tools. Like, for example, they are creating avatars to replicate content that is really, really useful. But again, back to being responsible. We want to be good humans. So there's a
Mhm.
dark side of everything. But if you're using it for the right process, I say that that's a very, very good opportunity there. Also, there is different like Nano Banana, for example, which is a Google application that actually allows you to generate images that are they're edited through it, and it's super powerful. You're just using like text to image, and trust me, it's great. Now, for better prompting, by the way, regardless of what application you're using, I highly recommend the Prompt Coach from Microsoft. That's through Copilot. It's a fantastic tool that allows you to do using the goal, context, source, and expectation, which is a framework that I've always used. Doesn't mean it's the right one. It means the one I picked. There's a million other ones, but that it uses that. And so it helps you understand how adding the goal, context, source, and expectations to a prompt make a difference. Then you also have, say, Notebook LM, which is a fantastic tool that allows you to do podcasting. So again, converting content from what do I have right now? So if you have a bunch of conversations with somebody, how about using an AI tool like Notebook LM to convert a podcast, and you don't have to do that on your own, right? So it is augmenting the potential. You are using the same exact conversation. So if you have a conversation with somebody today, you recorded the transcript, and then with that, you can generate an email response, you can generate a task list, you can generate a follow up, you can generate an idea for a podcast, you can make it into a podcast. By the way, with Copilot right now, I don't know if you saw it, but I did a post recently as a response to Femka's comment on creating a podcast
Mhm.
through Copilot. In Copilot OneDrive, you can go into OneDrive, right click on a file, select Copilot, and choose generate an audio overview. And you can do that, by the way, on the mobile as well. And what that does for you is it generates an audio file of a document so you can listen to it, you can hear it. But once you've done that, there's an option to make that into a podcast too. So again, augmenting, generating additional content and additional pieces from something that already exists. That is the trick, really, with regardless of the application you use and regardless of the workflow. Reusing information that was created once to make it into many, many things from that, so that you don't have to go back and touch it again and touch it again and touch it again. You are literally being the human in the loop by magnifying all of it and being the final editor, you pilot, not co-pilot, right? Being the final editor of those pieces. And then lastly, I would recommend also Lovable. That's a no-code, low-code tool. It helps you build websites. It helps you build applications that by just literally typing. So it's super powerful so that if you know already of a particular thing that your business is missing, you can automate some processes by using agents, bots, chatbots, whatever you want to call them, depending on the task. And that's going to help you be more productive and therefore not necessarily see a return on the investment, because everybody gets different results, at least not, it's difficult to pinpoint it now, but the return on the experience should be high enough that you're actually seeing a return on your investment.
And we'll list all of these tools that Melissa just mentioned in the show notes and the YouTube description. But you mentioned some things. It's super cool because I can't wait to look into them myself. But copyright, I wrote an article a
Mhm.
couple of years ago because we lost a client to AI, and they're like, we love working with you, and but we taught it how to write our blog articles, and it was a cost savings thing. So I had to do the research because I had to take a strong look. Like for us, it wasn't just about losing a job. It was like, is this the end of the business? Um, and what I found in my research was about copyright issues from the U.S. Copyright Office, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. There's been some lawsuits out about those, and really at the foundation, as long as a human, it really is, do you want to own it or not? Because if you created it from the beginning, you own it. If AI created it originally, no one owns it. AI is not a human. And so by law, it has to be owned by a human. AI is not a human. So neither you nor AI own it. But like you mentioned several tools where if you take original content you've already created and you put it into some of these other tools, and we do that here too at RPC Strategies, you can create multiple pieces. We were doing that anyway, but then AI just really 10x's that process. And like with the conversation you and I are having, I'm no longer writing original blog articles. I'm doing podcast interviews instead, and we're pulling blog articles out of that as a result.
Well, that's a great, interesting point, Rogo, and I think that is definitely worth mentioning. And copyright is a big deal. So, if any of your content, like you said, was originally generated through AI, even if a line is, then guess what? That is no longer copyrighted. So that means for your business that unless you have a marketing person like yourself, right, an agency that is actually doing things in a way that can be copyrighted, anybody can grab that particular item, whatever the graphic may be, your logo, whatever it is, and drop it right into their marketing strategy and it becomes theirs. And you can't say anything about it because it doesn't belong to you. So this is and this is also important for artists, for example, that have their work taken or reused and abused without any compensation, which I think is terrible. But that's what I said originally about be a good human. I could sit here and we could talk about, hallucination cases, evidence that hasn't been submitted, that doesn't exist. We could talk about people that are there's people calling, applying for jobs and getting hired and they're bots. There is a lot of damage that has happened because of people's voices being cloned, and there's a
Mhm.
lot of things. But that, in my opinion, and it's only that, my personal opinion, if you're a good human, then that's just not going to come to your universe. And so my thought process behind that is imagine pens, okay? If we had originally marketed pens as eye pokers, right? A lot of people, most people would use it as such. Now, how often? I'm not really sure, but that would be its most important use. Now, would you have some people writing stories with it? Probably so. They would find that additional use for it. But really, the most important use for it was its original use, which is an eye poker. And so my thought here is if we propagate the responsible, good use of AI, yeah, other people will use it for bad, just like everything else. But its propagation will be on the positive and not on the negative. And that is just something that we all need to work on so that we can help solve the problems that are going to happen because of it, because this is not going backwards. This is only going forward. So whether we believe it or not, whether we want to acknowledge it or not, our world is not going back to what it used to be. And we need to be responsible humans and be able to put this forth in a way that it betters our humankind and not worsen it. Now, we'll see what happens. The jury's still out, but I like to believe that we are on the more positive than the negative side, and I want to be a part of that.
What is the biggest misconception you hear about using Microsoft Copilot?
Oh, it doesn't work because it doesn't do everything for me. It's not an easy button? What do you mean? You don't say. I told it to create a building for me and it didn't do it. So it's good. My job is safe. I'm out.
It just
That's what
didn't build a
people think.
skyscraper for me. Okay.
Well,
Because
the whole thing
it's
is,
an idiot.
people don't understand a lot of things before they start using it. Again, back to adoption and back to guiding people through the process of a mindset, not just a tool. If you use it like a technology tool, so equate Microsoft Word to Copilot. You go to Word and you click on File, Open, and it opens a file for you. If you go to Copilot and you say File, Open, it's not going to open a file for you. There is no menu. There is no, it doesn't just do that. It opens it for what? It opens it to give you a summary, to create, the list of content that's in it, to give you questions, to talk with you about it. It opens it for something else. So it is a processing tool, not just a tool. It isn't a technology software. It is a generative AI tool. And so therefore, the misconception of that is a big hurdle. And so once you get to that, then it changes how you use it. That I think is one of the biggest things.
Right. That kind of segues us perfectly into the next question I want to ask. You are a certified AI prompt master. What is that? And what does that mean?
Well, that prompt master is a digital badge that we had for a promptathon that we did recently at the University of Miami. So that's part of how we learn, or how it is adoption is in its most, I guess, in its best stage when people are learning in community. And so one of the things that I've done in different places is get people together and do what's called a promptathon, which is gather together to do prompts in different ways and work as teams and build together concepts that are, in my opinion, pretty helpful for all those within that group. And so all of those that attended became prompt masters because we did that whole promptathon. And it is, I'm very big. And then I'm also, Microsoft has a certification for Copilot work. So I have that one too. And I put the digital badge on there too. But really what it is about is any certification. I am all for it. Somebody asked me this question the other day about, should I go to college, and get a certification or whatever? I'm like, listen, if you're not going to get a job in that business, I would say don't do it, because all of these certifications and all of the master MBAs, all of that have to be focused in a theory that was done 2 or 3 years ago, which will have the same effect. Like, you will learn, like, that's the whole point of it. And they're fantastic universities that have fantastic programs, but they're built on something that already happened with a future, with the expectation of building your future. Now, if you're only hoping to stay afloat, to learn and to keep up and to make this part of your everyday, I'd say go out to LinkedIn, go to YouTube, fantastic university, and build a community. Talk to your people. Matchmake yourself with those that are doing the same things you are, and put together, your heads to come up with ideas and how you can use this better. And use the prompt coach, or ask any of your tools. How can I prompt to get to this? Upload an image and say, I want to get an image like this. Please tell me what kind of a prompt I would generate. Ask me 17 questions, or as many questions as you need about blah, so that you can help me generate a prompt that fits what I'm looking for, because I have no idea what I want.
That's really good advice to even ask the tools or the LLMs. If you don't know how to prompt, ask them. I need to learn how to use this. So this is where I can get to talk about my green idiot story.
Go
Um,
ahead.
so I was at the Women in AI event in Nashville in February at Vanderbilt University that Kat Moon put on. It was the first of its kind. It was fantastic. There were like 150 women there as a one-day event. It was free to attend. The sponsors paid for everything. We just had to make
Wow.
our way there. And there were women from different industries. So I found my legal tech peeps, but there were women from healthcare, from education, from fintech, 5 or 6 different industries. And it was great because everybody was there to help each other instead of kind of the cattiness we sometimes expect from women, or it's been stereotypical. Like, everybody was there just to help each other. And so I was sitting in one of the last sessions I was attending, and it was about prompt architecture. And she was a professor from one of the universities. I think she was from LSU. And as she was talking through this prompt architecture, about halfway through, I thought to myself, it sounds like AI is just really an idiot. Bear with me while I tell you this. There's a book, okay, because everybody's like, what is wrong with Rogo? There's a book called Surrounded by Idiots, and it's on my bookshelf, and it's one of my favorite business books. I sent it to a couple of my consultants one year. But it's psychology about communication, and he breaks it down, people into 4 categories: reds, yellows, greens, and blues. Okay, and each color has this different set of any one of these personality tests you can read into it, right? So reds are they're leaders, they're ambitious, they're very driven, they're very competitive. Blues are very analytical. Yellows are, and reds and blues get along really well. They like a yin and yang. Yellows are, I describe them as these little social butterflies. Basically, if you need something planned, like a big event or a group thing, they will plan it. They'll be, oh yeah, I'm all excited. And they can plan it, they can organize it, they can get tons and tons of people there. And then when it happens, everybody's like, well, where's so and so? Because they kind of disappear. They don't actually finish the job, right? They just disappear, right? But then greens, he tells the story of greens being, if you put a green personality in a canoe with 2 feet of water below and all around and a dock within reaching distance, but no paddle, the green personality will sit there until you tell it what to do. That's why I say AI is a green idiot, because being able to prompt and learning prompt engineering, prompt architecture, becoming a prompt master, AI can't do anything without you telling it what to do.
And it only sees that little prompt box. It only either hears or
Mhm,
reads what you say. It
mhm.
doesn't see, not yet. I mean, it will eventually and all that. But
We don't
today,
need it does it. I'm sure it
yeah,
does somewhere.
like, I mean, today it is, it doesn't know that I have curly hair and you have straight hair or, wavy hair. It doesn't know that we're in different places, right? It
Mhm,
doesn't know that it's not absorbing any of the details that we are not providing. For example, if we were to upload this transcript and you talked about the fact that you have those earrings and how we connected through the earrings, it wouldn't be able to create the earrings because it didn't see them. And we didn't talk about how they are, right? We just talked about the fact that they're earrings. And so those are the things that we need to understand, that it is taking in only what we are providing it, which
mhm,
is also one very key point, that it is the lack of providing, and that is coming from women, which is the reason for the community, right? It turns out, and according to Harvard Business Review, and they did an article and other articles that I've read, women are using AI about 25% less than men. And that is causing a really biased AI. That's why when you ask for a doctor or a lawyer or any of those types of pictures, immediately you get a guy. And then, of course, if you ask for a nice picture of, a female XYZ, it's, a super curvy, very sexy type
mhm.
of girl. And that's just because the perspective that is provided, right? And then more importantly, I think, is causing for the salary gap to widen even further, because AI skills is almost a requirement for any job now, regardless of the industry, like you very well mentioned. And what happens to that is leadership typically is given these tools because that's their top-down adoption. AI is not like that. AI is in circle adoption. Everybody has to be put into the mix in order for that to happen. And because leadership is mostly not female in the world that we live in, there's a lack of that input too. So I want to take this opportunity to invite everybody to create join communities, anyone, mine's free or whatever. It doesn't make a difference. It's not about my community. It's about you. Join people, talk to your mother, your sister, your cousin, your coworkers, anybody, and ask them, what are you guys doing with AI? Get ideas, get creative, talk about it over dinner. I have my girls, we had a dinner the other day and we talked about how we were using it and we came up with the craziest, best ideas ever. So this is about spreading the word and getting your hands, your feet, getting dirty in it. So
It's
start using it.
that you said that, because at that Nashville, at the Vanderbilt thing, at the end of the day, we were all encouraged to get together with other group pods of women. We were already pre-assigned, and to come up with one idea that we were going to use AI for. And my idea was to come up with an AI agent for SEO. That has since evolved into, well, it's evolved into something else. I have plans to develop an AI agent that can do the prospecting research for me. And I've been able to write it out, and I've tested it in a couple. And so I've been able to get most of the way there, about 2/3 of the way there, so I can see what it looks like. And once I create it for myself, then I can create it for others. But I need a developer to help kind of get it across the finish line, because it does have its limitations. But oh my God, if I could create an agent to do, and it has to be specific. I can't have somebody do it for me. Like, it's specific to what I need for RPC, and then it needs to be customized for others, specific to their business, their target audience, what their target's problems are. But I was encouraged to do that by women. I'm like, I love that idea. So let's talk about you've got a program called Beyond the Magic Wand, Mastering Microsoft Copilot through Strategic Workflows. And let's kind of segue this into marketing sales. We've touched on it a little bit. What are some of the ways that you've seen Copilot in different workflows you've presented, and what you're teaching that support marketing and sales efforts, specifically within the AmLaw environment, since that's what your background is?
So I work a lot with ILTA, and we do a lot of content development for ILTA. And if you don't know, that's International Legal Technology Administration. If you're in the legal tech field, you want to join.
Okay.
But in addition to, telling you about them, I'm mentioning them because in my experience with other collaborators within those other firms, I can tell you that Copilot is one of the most frequently used tools because it is so well embedded into your Microsoft suite. And that gives you leverage to things like we talked about, simple, get into my emails, to this, to that. But also it gives you the ability to some firms are plugging it in into APIs to their CRMs, right?
Mhm.
And so they can go in and gather information based on their client information, but also using the researcher is a fantastic agent that is like similar to what ChatGPT will give to ChatGPT 5 or GPT-5 in Copilot is exactly the very detailed but summarized version of what, say, the researcher will give you. The researcher is like a full report that a researcher would actually give you on something. So something like what? Like analyzing, I am in this particular zip code, or this is my region, this is my client base, here is my list of clients, or this is the areas where I've been able to target the most. Please go find people, find organizations, this size, this range, whatever. And you can also do Google grokking for that. I don't know if you've heard about it, but grokking is using specific keywords to get better results out of your searches with Google, which, by the way, Google searching is not the same than using an AI generative tool. A generative AI tool will produce content. Google will give you links. Yeah, they'll give you a summary at the top. That's the AI piece of Google. But the actual result of it is what I'm talking about. So you can use those results, use this link, that link, use this information in order to create for me a potential list of clients or a potential list of things that I could evolve into. So my business specializes in A, B, C, D. Tell me in this particular market, based on my region and my mission and vision, what is something that I could potentially grow into? What is this business lacking? Evaluate, analyze my region and my business type. Or if you're trying to build a different arm or section for your business, you could do that too. If you're working with a particular client, it's awesome for intelligence research. For competitive intelligence, it's fantastic. And then once you have that information, using the analyst in Copilot to grab that information and then do something that's meaningful for you. So I have all of this information in here, and then I want you to now create a list of potential XYZ by zip code, by, mile radius, by business type, by employee count, by whatever. And then it generates all of this information that you can use to make that into actionable items for you and your business. So those are two very important ones, the researcher, the analyst. I would also definitely recommend Create. Create is actually another agent that's way at the bottom left on your Copilot. And what it does is it allows you to create a brand kit. So that way you have all your colors pre-populated, your fonts and everything, and you can use that to define styles, to define color themes and schemes that you can then use in order to generate the actual content. So that's another thing. The other thing that you could use is use tools that will enable you to use the same, say, personality, for example, every time. That's not every single application does that. But I will tell you, I'm trying to remember what it is. I think I want to say it's 11 Labs, maybe. Um, I don't remember, but I'll tell you and then we can put it on the notes for it. But what it does is it helps you reuse the same type of information, the same type of character, right? The
Mhm.
same, like, so that it is cohesive And then that part of the information could be done through Create as well. So, put it in a way that it is cohesive and making those images, publications, banners, infographics, and all that is really helpful if you have a branding kit. So that's why Create is so fantastic. Um, and then lastly, I think that Copilot is really good at helping you with PowerPoint decks, but not just for the creation of PowerPoint decks, which is good. I'm not a big fan of, PowerPoint anymore as much as I used to be. It's a little exhausting, but I like to use it for both, not only the generation, but the consumption and generation of content through that. Everybody goes to a lot of conferences, a lot of meetings. There's a lot of sharing of information that's done through these decks. So you can input, upload the deck to your OneDrive and then ask it to generate for you highlights, key points to tell you based on the information that is shared here, how can I apply that to my business? Look into my notes in Outlook and here on my OneDrive on these files, compare that to my mission and vision and so forth. And so using that information to bring in content that is going to be helpful and a little bit more tailored to your business is where I think Copilot could shine for you.
I would take that a step further, because I'm thinking of like if it's tied to a CRM or practice management tool,
Hmm.
I would take that a step further, like taking that information that an attorney practitioner has gotten from a conference and doing those kind of summaries. But really, if you've set up your personas, your target clients, your target prospects, and your clients, and you know what their business goals are and what their challenges are, have the tools to pull out from those PowerPoints information and messaging that talks directly to those pain points of your targets and your clients and solutions that you can offer them. I would take it a step further and be able to start creating content for attorneys that reach their target prospects and their clients that way. And then,
I
like you guys said,
agree.
we can create 8 to 10 different pieces out of one after that.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree. And in that case, I think I touched on the agents that I'm talking about, like the out of the box Copilot. But if you actually connect it to your CRM and to other types of information, right, from regardless where your data lives, you can create agents. Now, my only recommendation is that when you do create agents, make them small tasks. Don't ask it to generate a big thing and give you the full report. You can have 10 agents that do one process, right?
Mhm.
You can intertwine the information and make it like a chain of thought thing where you have this result come into this one, come into this one, come into this one to generate the final product. But your agent should be highly um, regulated and or reviewed by a human. So that's why if you're making smaller tasks, it's going to be easier because the checking, the revising of that information becomes easier and more manageable instead of just making more work for you. So
You
yes,
know,
you can build agents with Studio and you can connect it to your applications and you can do a lot more if you're going to go that route. Yeah.
and I know we need to tie up here in a minute, but it makes me think too, like I have a bunch of projects set up in Chat GPT that all relate to podcast briefing, show notes, YouTube descriptions, blog articles, taking existing content, pushing it in, having it come up with questions for me. There's a number of things that I do, but each one is its own project. And we could, and I'm thinking of in terms of what I do, but also it's very easy to take all these pieces that you do inside of a law firm or legal tech. And I have a 9 point prompt I use for evaluating my sales meetings. Is there an opportunity here? What are the challenges? What are the services we offer that can help them overcome that? How can I frame that? What's my next follow up? But all of these individual things we do are set up like as projects, but then you can use an agent to tie that workflow together so that you start the trigger and then it follows that workflow for those 3 or 4 different things you need to accomplish within the life cycle or the workflow cycle of that task to help you reach your goals in the end.
Exactly. I agree.
So we had a lot to talk about, and I love this conversation. I learned so much from you, and there's tons of tools that we're going to put in the show notes, and I can't wait to dig into that. So you come from a little bit of a different background, than kind of the legal tech vendor side that I come from. So Melissa, what are some of the what would you like to leave our audience with as far as adoption of AI, prompt mastering, and how to leverage this for business outcomes, whether you're a law firm or legal tech?
Sure. I think the main and the most important thing is build community. Your network is your net worth in every sense of the way. And that means if you are a super seasoned person in your business, get with a not so seasoned, I'm not talking about young or old. I'm talking about information. I'm talking about experience in your business. Because once you have somebody that's not so experienced and somebody that's very experienced, you can build content together. You can build ideas and things that are just going to be fresh blood with a lot of experience, technology in between. That's a amazing, beautiful blow up. But the other thing is talk to everybody. AI is the hot topic. I know people are tired of talking about it, but it's not going away. So use it for good. Have conversations with your AI tool or tools. Make sure you're paying for your subscription and make sure that you go into the settings and disable the yes, you can use my information to train your LLMs, because even if you're paying for it, they are still taking your info. So be responsible, but be a community builder. The more that we talk about this, the more that we learn from what others are doing and from the potential of what I can do, that's how our world changes. If we stay quiet and we sit in silos and we try to do the best we can with the tools that we're given, we're never going to understand how the full ecosystem can work. This isn't about changing a workflow. This is not about changing the way that you do one task. This is about changing your whole organization, transforming the way that your organization works and how it shows up for the world, so that the output that you have today could be augmented and processed in such different ways that impacts not just one's new business.
And what are the names of the communities that you're a part of that people can join?
Sure. Along with Femke Cornelissen, who is a three-time Copilot MVP and chief Copilot for Wordtel, is an organization in um, the Netherlands. We have rockstar women in AI and cybersecurity, and that's because security should always be tied to your AI strategy, and that can be found on LinkedIn. And also, I just interviewed recently Danielle Moon in our podcast that just came out, and she has a Women in Power community, which is also a group of, I think, over 2 or 3 thousand women all over the world. They offer a lot of information. It's actually free as well. And another one that I can offer is She Breaks the Law. That's Priya Lele, and she is a fantastic human as well. It's a community of women as well that helps with not only the legal aspects of things, but technology and networking and all that. So, but if you just Google it or Copilot it in two different ways, of course, you'll get two different results, but good ones as well. There's a ton of communities out there. People are trying to make a difference. Join one that helps you, suits you. Join them all and see what works for you. But join something and someone where you can belong and make a difference.
Perfect. All right. Thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks, Melissa, for being here. And tune into the next one, and we'll see y'all soon.
Thanks so much for having me. Make it a great day.